The Men's T20 World Cup gets underway very shortly with the first round group games starting on Sunday, October the 16th, so that's this week. And then we've got the Super 12 starting the following week on Saturday, October the 22nd. So we thought let's take a look at one player to watch from every team competing in the 2022 Men's T20 World Cup. Now we've got everything from relatively unknown youngsters, we've got some exciting emerging talents and some returning stars as well. And then we've got, the more obvious white ball stalwarts, some more obvious players that you'll recognise, and some of the most informed players from the last 12 months in T20 cricket. As always, if you enjoy the video, please like and share it. Subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date with all our latest videos. And leave us a comment letting us know who you're most looking forward to watching in this year's competition. Right then, let's kick things off with Afghanistan. That's how we start alphabetically. And you might be thinking, Rashid Khan, obvious choice. Yeah, brilliant player, one of the best in the world. A master of his craft, one of the greatest leg spinners in modern day cricket, especially in white ball format. But no, this time for Afghanistan, we're going to look at one of their white ball batting stars in the form of Ramanullah Gurbaz. Now, Gurbaz, a 20-year-old wicketkeeper batter. I remember the first time I saw him was in action in the T10 League in Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago, and I was really impressed with him from what I saw. Now, he's played 32 T20Is and 96 T20s to date. Exciting young wicketkeeper bat, and he goes hard in all phases of the innings, and that's one reason why I really like him. I'm just looking here at my notes. 151 strike rate in the power play, 142 in the middle overs, and on the two occasions that he's batted at the death, he scored 20 runs off 8 balls, so that's a strike rate of 250. So there's a lot to like about Gurbaz. In terms of his international pedigree, he's got 828 runs at an average of 25.87, strikes at just shy of 140, had a really good Asia Cup, 152 runs at an average of 30.4, and crucially, in T20 cricket, a strike rate of 163.44. Now, he's a quick scorer against most types of bowling, strikes at in excess of 155 against pace, 170 plus against right arm pace. As we can see, if we just take a look at the stats guru here, batting strike rate against right arm pace, 173.10, and that's across a sample size of 658 balls. It's not a fluke. He does that consistently, averaging 33.5. He had a really good Asia Cup. He's got a blistering 84 against Sri Lanka as well, and a 40 off 18 against Sri Lanka. Of all players to score 100 runs in the tournament, only Suryakumar Yadav scored quicker than Gurbaz, and that was by 0.08. So this is the sort of player we're dealing with. He's really, really strong off his legs. Anything short, he's really quick on the flick and the pull. Basically anywhere from fine leg to mid-wicket, and he's quite similar to Phil Salt in that way. He picks up length and he works it through the leg side really, really impressively, and he's also very good over mid-off. So Ramanullah Gurbaz kicking things off, he's the first player to watch. Moving on to Australia, and tough choice. There's a lot of people you could have gone for. I've gone for the man who's just found his way into the team, previously played for Singapore. Now it's Tim David playing for Australia. The big man, what is he, 6'5", 6'6", a run-hitting, six-hitting machine, 26-year-old bully of a batter, 20 T20Is to his name. Obviously that's split across a couple with Australia in the recent series against West Indies and England, and then most of those in associate cricket for Singapore. The strike rate speaks for itself regardless, 160. And in his T20 career in general, he's got, the best part of 3,000 runs, nearly an average of north of 30, striking at 160 plus. He had a brilliant IPL. Now, he played, didn't he, for the Mumbai Indians. He got dropped early on. Proved to be a big mistake because when he came back, he was a six-hitting machine. 186 runs at 37.2. and a strike rate of 216. Now, he's had a crazy year of T20 cricket as Tim David. He's played 63 T20s to date. If there's a domestic league on, there's a high probability that Tim David will be playing in it. Of all players to score 100 plus runs in the PSL and the IPL this year in those specific leagues, nobody had a higher strike rate than David in either. In the IPL, he hit 16 sixes in 86 balls, and that's just like mental ball striking. And in 2022, he's hit 87 sixes from 736 balls faced so far. So he hits, on average this year, a six every 8.45 balls. So, going towards the death overs, Tim David is your man. And if we take a look again at Stats Guru, batting at the death in 2022, to be specific, across 273 balls faced in all T20s where ball-by-ball data is available, 54 sixes, 32 fours, and striking at 217.58. All that also while averaging the best part of 25-26. So he hits runs quickly and he gets decent runs at the same time. In 2022, just to delve a bit deeper, strikes at the best part of 190 against pace. That's 160 in the middle overs and 220 plus in the death overs. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Tim David translates those performances in franchise cricket. He's played so much cricket, he might be burnt out, you feel, but he had ducks in the recent games against West Indies and England, but also smashed a brutal 42 off 20 in the second T20I against the West Indies. And that's just the nature of T20 cricket, isn't it? You can never always be on your game. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Tim David slots into that Australia side, who are, of course, looking to retain their crown. Moving on to Bangladesh, and I've chosen Mosaddek Hussain. Now, I was looking through the players on Bangladesh, and I was not too sure who to pick for this. You know, Shakib Al Hasan is usually the poster boy for all Bangladeshi performance, but I want to move a little bit away from that. Everyone knows everything there is to know about Shakib Al Hasan. So we've gone with Mosaddek Hussain, 26-year-old bat, but he's actually turned out to be more than handy with the ball at the same time for Bangladesh. His numbers on paper don't look outstanding. You know, in T20s in general, he's got 1,833 runs at 23.5. He only strikes south of 120, and the same can be said of his record in T20Is. But what interests me about Mossaddek's stats is that he is a batter, but his bowling's become quite an integral part of his play style. Now, he enjoyed two excellent games personally in the Asia Cup while Bangladesh didn't have the best time, against Sri Lanka and Afghanistan. Against Afghanistan in the latter, he hit 48 not out off 31, batting at number 7 to rescue his side from 53 for 5. Now, they didn't win the game, but that just shows the flexibility he's got batting through the middle. Like I said, he's primarily a batter, but his bowling has proven to be more than useful in the international game. He's taken a fifer against Zimbabwe earlier this year, made his debut back in 2016 and didn't play in the 2021 T20 World Cup, so he'll be hoping for a strong showing this time around. And in that Asia Cup, 72 runs, wasn't dismissed and took one wicket at 12s and went at sub 5 for his economy rate. So Mosaddek Hussain, the man to watch for Bangladesh. Right then, England, take your pick of players who you could choose as a one to watch from England. I've gone for Ben Stokes. Bit of a strange one maybe, I don't know. Alex Hales was nearly the one I chose, you know, coming back from the wilderness. But Ben Stokes, we're going to go for 31-year-old all-rounder. Don't need an introduction really for Ben Stokes. But T20Is and T20s in general are probably, well, definitely are his weakest format. Now, on Sunday, he played his first T20I since March 2021 against Australia. He contributed a runner ball 9 and none for 18 off 2 overs. He was promoted to number 3, interestingly, after Hales and Butler got off to a quick start. But he didn't have the kind of return that he would have been after. Now, before that, Stokes had only played 14 T20s since the start of 2021, missed the 2021 World Cup after taking a break from the game, and retired from ODIs early this year. So there was a question about Ben Stokes' position in England's white ball side. Now, there's no doubt in Stokes' power and ability, but there are questions over whether he is the best for that role after a long time away, you know, particularly while others have been performing for England, whether it be in England, outside of England on international tours or in franchise leagues. But the absences of Jason Roy through a lack of form and Owen Morgan being retired, Johnny Bairstow getting injured, it makes Ben Stokes' inclusion slightly less complicated than it could have been had those three been available. Now, England have confirmed he'll bat at number 4 on his return. He batted at number 3 the other day, got a promotion. Feels like a good position for Stokes. You know, he's previously spent his time in the middle order in the few games that he has played in T20s for England. He does need a bit of time to get going. You know, he can assess the situation, then launch from number 4, you feel. He's a much better player than someone who should be limited to a 10-ball cameo. But following that comeback game, he now averages less than 20 with the bat in 35 T20Is since his debut more than 10 years ago. So he might score fairly quickly with a strike rate of 135, and obviously that's all in short bursts. But Stokes is a really interesting one. He's a big game player, look. He's versatile, he loves the big occasion, he's selfless, he wants to be there when things get tough. You know, Headingley, 2019 World Cup, write him off at your peril. He's got history in the T20 World Cup, he'll want to put that right from that night in India in 2016 with the Carlos Brathwaite moment. He's quite expensive with the ball, so I wouldn't expect him to bowl his full quota, but you know, the other night when he went for 18 off 2 in a game where 200 plus runs were scored, going at 9s was about par for the course. So He's a more than handy cricketer, he's a big game player. Write him off at your peril, Ben Stokes, the one to watch for England. Much like England, for India we could have chosen any number of players. I've gone for Suryakumar Yadav. What do you say about him? Quite possibly the best white ball batter on the planet right now, and he's elevated his game somehow in T20Is, even higher than his domestic record and his brilliant domestic numbers. Now, in 34 T20Is to date, so one less than Ben Stokes, he's scored 1,045 runs at an average of 38.7 with a strike rate of 176.81. Now, no player with 100 runs scored quicker in the Asia Cup in 2022. That was last month. Only 4 players have hit more sixes in T20Is this year. I'm just going to reel off a load of stats because his numbers are absurd. He's enjoying a remarkable year with the bat. In all T20s, he's got 1,140 runs this year, an average north of 40, striking more than 170. He's striking at nearly 190 against pace in T20s this year and 200 in T20Is. Best part of 150 against spin in T20s and nearly 160 in T20Is. An absolute beast in the death overs. Let's just consult our old friend Ask Crick Info again. Suryakumar Yadav batting in the death overs in T20I cricket this year. Not this year, just in general. 145 runs at a strike rate of 254.38. All that as well while averaging 36.25. So he's been out half the times he's batted in the death overs in T20Is. But when he bats, boy does he hit them. He's got more sixes. The same amount. He hits a six as regularly as he faces a dot ball. And that just tells you all you need to know about him. He is a true 360-degree batter who can score all around the ground. He's got that impeccable timing and 360-degree skill set makes him dangerous. But when you combine that with, he's just got this incredible reading of the game and ability to manipulate the field, that makes him nearly unstoppable. India look like a strong side. They've nailed this new batting approach. He looks like really positive. Suryakumar Yadav is the key to that. If he has a good tournament in Australia, bouncy pitches, can manipulate the field, hit the ball pretty much anywhere, watch out for India. Watch out for Suryakumar Yadav. Now moving on to Ireland. If they want to be in the Super 12s, they'll have to get through the first round group games first. And one man who could be crucial to helping them do that is Paul Stirling, 32 years old, very, very experienced campaigner. Ireland's best ever batter, quite probably. He's got 3 T20 centuries to his name. He comes off the back of a really poor CPL though, so that is a bit of a worry. He managed 15 runs in 5 innings, so not just bad, like really bad. Had a decent T20 blast this year in England, averaged best part of 25 and struck at 170, so again, scores his runs very, very quickly. He's crucial to Ireland's chances, really, in the tournament, not only, but also at the top of the order. He strikes at the best part of 150 in the power play in all T20s. Paul Stirling holds the key for Ireland for me this World Cup. Another side competing in the first round group games is Namibia. Now, I've gone for one of the oldest players on the circuit, probably one of the oldest players in the T20 World Cup this year, in the form of David Wiese. 37 years old he is. He's got 36 T20Is to his name. Now, of course, some of those for South Africa. He played a long, long time ago for South Africa and then became a Kolpak player, was no longer eligible, and now he's playing for Namibia. He came back just before the start of that World Cup last year, in which he really impressed. We'll get onto that. He offers great flexibility as an all-rounder. He played a starring role in last year's competition. Namibia beat Ireland, Netherlands and Scotland in their debut T20 World Cup last year. Wiese himself, 227 runs at 45.4, striking at just short of 130, and also added 6 wickets to his tally, going at just under 7.5 runs and over. He's able to bat anywhere from 5 to 8, always offers a solid 2 to 4 overs with the ball. Last year, only Butler and Rizwan hit more sixes than Wiese in the 2021 T20 World Cup, where he hit a 6 every 16.18 balls. Also good at the death, as you would expect if he can bat from anywhere, from 5 to 8 through the middle order. Strikes at 176.28 in over 17 to 20 in all T20s. Impressed in the 100 as well, I should say, and struck quickly in the CPL, though he didn't have as good a tournament with the bat. He was impressive with the ball. 12 wickets at 16 and an economy rate of less than 7. So David Wiese for Namibia really holds the key, I think. Third side in a row who are going to be in the first round, the Netherlands. Now, Scott Edwards is my pick, the Netherlands skipper. In truth, Netherlands had a really tough time at last year's T20 World Cup. Edwards did hit a decent innings against Namibia. He got 21 off 11 towards the end of the innings. But generally, Netherlands struggled and Scott Edwards struggled. He was part of the Curtis Camphor 4 wickets in 4 balls against Ireland, as the Netherlands were also bundled out for 44 against Sri Lanka. But the reason I've picked him is from what I saw earlier this year when the Netherlands played England in that ODI series. Now, he enjoyed a brilliant series against England in May. He scored 3 half-centuries, scored at a strike rate of 106.46, 214 runs at an average of 107, strike rate more than a run a ball, 3 half-centuries. He's obviously got a lot of talent. His T20I numbers, I think, don't accurately reflect the sort of player he is from what we saw in that series. So I'm expecting big things from him if the Netherlands are to have any chance in this year's tournament. Back to some of the sides in the Super 12s. New Zealand have gone for Lockie Ferguson. Now, missed the T20 World Cup last year with a calf tear, and unfortunately leading up to this tournament, he is an injury doubt, a few weeks out this time around. He's not played in the last few of New Zealand's warm-up games. When he does take to the park, hopefully it's just a precautionary scare, but when he does take to the park, he will undoubtedly be one of the quickest bowlers on show. He'll be part of a strong pace attack, one that includes, Trent Boult, Tim Southey, Adam Milne. What makes Ferguson so good and one to watch? Well, he's got a brilliant short ball, he's rapid, and he has a lethal Yorker as well. Those two things, the Yorker and the short ball, complete opposites, but in equal measure, they are two of his biggest weapons. He's a great operator in the power play. His economy rate is 6.69 in the power play in 21 T20I innings, and that's with an average of 14.74 to go along with it. 7.27 in 73 T20 innings with a 17.11 average. So, he's doing it in both domestic cricket and international cricket to great aplomb. He's got absurd numbers for a quick bowler in his short T20I career so far. So 32 wickets at 16.12 and goes at an economy rate of less than 7 runs per over. And if we just look at his death bowling numbers in the men's T20Is, in 13 innings, he's bowled 86 balls. So what's that? Just shy of 15 overs. Economy rate of 7.25, averaging 11.55. Massive player for New Zealand, who come in, I think, not as strong as they were last year. So Lockie Ferguson, his form with the ball in those on those bouncy pitches in Australia, massively important for New Zealand. Another quick bowler who's got a huge role to play for his side is Pakistan's Haris Rauf. Now, he had a brilliant series against England in the 7-match T20I series just gone. He was the pick of the bowlers in that series, took 8 wickets at 23.62, economy rate of less than 8. He was increasingly important in the absence of Shaheen, while some of the lesser experienced lads around him were going the distance and missing their Yorkers, missing their hard lengths. He was absolutely brilliant. If you pair those two together, which Pakistan should be able to in this World Cup, lethal. He's one of the quickest and most exciting on show, but he's also a very clever bowler, I think. He bowls a brilliant fast Yorker that's almost implayable at the death of the innings. But he also has this sort of ability to produce an incredible off-cutter that's like 130 to 140 kph. Now, the best thing about that is his arm speed is entirely the same the whole way through, so it's really difficult to pick up for any batters, no matter how good they are. We saw England's players struggle generally against Rauf at the death, and those numbers would be even better if Pakistan could catch. There was a lot of drop catches off Rauf, so he's definitely one to watch. Those two assets, the Yorker and that off-cutter, his change of pace, barely, but a change of pace still. Those two assets making him a nightmare to face at the death. He averages 15.52 in over 17 to 20 in T20Is and goes at just 8.14 runs and over. Note here, he's bowled 118 dot balls at the death in T20Is since the start of 2021. Nobody has bowled more than that. Mustafizur Rahman from Bangladesh is the next most with 86. So Haris Rauf, I think he's going to have a really good tournament. Quick pitches, going to use his pace to his advantage. Quite big outfields. I can see him having a brilliant tournament. Back to one of the sides playing in the first round of group games. Scotland have chosen Mark Watt. 26-year-old, slow left arm bowler. Enjoyed a brilliant T20 World Cup, you might remember, last year in 2021, where he took 7 wickets at 26.28. But the main stat on that was his 6.13 economy rate. Now, of course, he played in the first round of group games again, but in the Super 12s, he was impressive as well. He only went for more than 6 runs and over in 2 of Scotland's 8 games. That was against India and Pakistan, so 2 of the stronger sides that he would have played against. He took 1 for 13 against New Zealand last year, including 12 dot balls as Scotland pushed them close. An economy rate of 6.64 in T20 I's in over 17 to 20, so bowling at the death. And he was the most economical of Derbyshire's bowlers in the most recent Vitality Blast season, which is where I've seen the most of Mark Watt. But it was a disappointing season by his high standards. You know, he averaged just short of 40, taking 13 wickets. So if he has any sort of tournament like he did last year, I know the pitches will be slightly different, but again, outfields are quite big. You might find himself getting a couple of catches in the deep. He's very consistent, doesn't often miss his line and length. He's going to be massive for Scotland's chances, not only in getting through the first round games, but having a decent Super 12s if they manage to do that. South Africa, one of my favourite players in world cricket at the moment. I've chosen David Miller. Absolute titan of T20 cricket. You know, perhaps in the form of his life right now. 6th leading run scorer in the 2022 IPL. Helped the Gujarat Titans win the competition. No player averaged more than Miller's 68.71 in that. He's absolutely brutal in the death overs. He averages 38 strikes at 186.88 across his T20 career. He's even more destructive in 2022 T20Is, so international games this year. Look, he's been dismissed once in 6 innings at the death. He scored 103 runs and struck at 214.58. Now, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. Had a good series against India. He's doing okay in the ODIs as well. He's averaging 46.5 against pace in 2022 T20I, striking at nearly 190. So, you know, facing the likes of Ralph and Ferguson and those kind of players on those pitches, bouncy pitches, loads of pace coming in, batting at 5'6". He's going to have a great time, I feel, in Australia. It doesn't get any easier as well if you're a spinner. He's averaging 71.16 with a strike rate of nearly 150 in all T20s this year against spin. He has fallen a couple of times to leg spin, but wait for it. Averages 152 with a 152 strike rate against slow left arm, and averages 170 with an 157.4 strike rate against off spinners in 2022 T20s. So pace, spin, Miller will smash it. That's what we're basically saying this year. He's going to be huge to South Africa's chances. Scores really, really quickly. He's averaging more than 50 in the middle overs as well, so he's not just doing it at the death. But speaking of death runs, he is the most prolific run scorer in the death overs in T20I history. He's got 876, an average of 31.28, and a strike rate of more than 180. He recently overtook MS Dhoni. That's the sort of calibre of player we're looking at here with David Miller. Massive for South Africa's chances this year. Definitely one to watch. Moving on to the 2022 Asia Cup champion Sri Lanka, and it's a pretty obvious choice for me. I've gone for Wanindu Hasaranga, 25-year-old, brilliant all-rounder, but most importantly, just a stunning spin bowler in white ball cricket. I'll just read some things off for you again. Only Bhuvaneshwar Kumar took more wickets than Wanindu Hasaranga in the 2022 Asia Cup, which of course Sri Lanka won, and that was 11, and Hasaranga took 9. Did that at an average of 18.88 and an economy rate of 7.39. Only Yuzvendra Chahal took more wickets in the 2022 IPL. That was 27. Hasaranga took 26. Averages 16.53. Economy of 7.54. You get the picture. You know, he's a brilliant bowler. And he was a leading wicket taker at last year's T20 World Cup. 16 at 9.75. Now, of course, he played the first round games and the Super 12s. But still, like, that's a pretty good return. Averages less than 15 with the ball from 44 T20Is, has a strike rate of 13.1, so takes a wicket just over every 2 overs that he bowls. Brilliant in terms of his variations, very subtle. Economy rate as well, if we just look at the stats here, his economy rate bowling in the death overs in men's T20Is, 6.66, so you know when most people are getting carted around, you don't often see a spinner bowling over 17 to 20. Hasaranga's proven he can do it. Goes at 6.66, of a sample size of 100 balls as well, so it's not a fluke. You know, that's 16, 17 overs that he's bowled. Also, within that time, he's taking wickets, an average of 7.92. So not only is he containing, he's also getting people out. And when you couple that bowling ability with his batting ability down the order, he's got a highest score of 71. That was against Ireland in last year's T20 World Cup. He is a mega player for Sri Lanka and one that is definitely worth keeping an eye on. 3 more teams to go, and this is certainly, or I would at least imagine, going to be the least known cricketer on this list. 16-year-old Ayan Afzal Khan from the United Arab Emirates. Now, An all-rounder, slow left-arm bowler. This could have been Mohamed Wasim. He's quite high up on the T20I batting rankings. But we've gone for Ayaan Afzal Khan. 16 years old, made his professional debut in T20s and T20Is against Bangladesh at the end of September. Made 25 off 17 with the bat. 1 for 16 from his 3 overs with the ball. Got the wicket of Litton Das. He did the same in the second game when he got Litton Das and Atif Hussain. He's one of those who performed in the most recent Under-19s Cricket World Cup. 146 runs with the bat at an average of 36.5, and he took 5 wickets at 28.8. Within that was a brilliant 93 off 121, batting at number 6 to help the UAE beat the West Indies Under-19. So 16-year-old slow left-armer Ayaan Afzal Khan, keep an eye on him. The penultimate team on this list is the West Indies now. There's been so much going on. Shimron Hetmyer was potentially going to be my one to watch. As it happens, he's not made the tournament. There's so many other players not there, the likes of Narayan, Russell. So we've actually gone for the skipper, Nicholas Pooran, 27-year-old, captain of a West Indies side, missing a lot of big names. That already is a very, very difficult job. But as a T20 batter, Pooran's one of the best in the world, I think. Read some numbers off again. Strikes at 199.20 in overs, 17 to 20 in T20Is. He's hit 63 sixes in 38 innings in T20I since the start of 2021. No player has hit more. Only Liam Livingstone and Glenn Phillips have hit more sixes in T20s since the start of 2020 than Pooran. That was 171. And his real strength, I think, comes in his playing of spin bowling. Averages 52 strike rate of 150 against leg spin in T20s. Averages only 25 against slow left arm, but does that at a strike rate of 152.64. And the mental bit is when he accelerates through the middle overs against spin, you know, at sort of 130, 140 rate. But if he ever faces spin at the death, you've made a mistake. Look at these stats here. 104 balls faced in all T20s by Pooran at the death against spin. 25 sixes, 5 fours. So if you're bowling spin, it's not even going to the boundary, it's going over the boundary. That's what he's doing. Strike rate of 211.53, averaging 30 plus. Massively important player. Obviously in Australia you might not get to face spin that much, and also probably not at the death, but if that situation arises, he does have pedigree in that area. His form is a bit of a concern though. He's only scored more than 20 runs once in his last 10 official T20I innings and scored just 2 in both of the West Indies warm-up games against Australia. And last but not least, we move on to Zimbabwe. Now, this is a man who has had an incredible 2022. Sikandar Raza, 36 years old, a brilliant all-rounder for Zimbabwe, had a stellar year. His numbers in T20Is don't look that good. 1,040 runs at 20 with a strike rate of 125, 28 wickets as well, an average of 30 plus. Economy rate of 7.32 is good. They are similar to his T20 record overall. This year's where he's really excelled. 516 runs at an average of 39.69 with a strike rate of 150 plus in 16 T20Is this year, including 2 60 plus scores against Bangladesh and 2 40 plus scores against Afghanistan. So, you know, the likes of Zimbabwe do play a lot of associate sides. He's done it against full member nations there. In that time, he's also taken 15 wickets at 19.06 with an economy rate of less than a run a ball, 5.95. That included 4 for 8 against the Netherlands in a final of the T20 World Cup qualifier. So again, big game player, likes to perform. Away from T20Is just for a minute to ODIs, that's where he's had a lot of success this year, which leads me to believe he's going to have quite a good tournament. He's riding high off the back of averaging nearly 50 in ODIs this year. That's in 3-match series against Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, can't even count, India and Australia. There's 5. Some good sides in there, away from home as well, some of those. But I think the main reason Sikandar Raza might have come to your attention this year, he's scored 3 incredible centuries in the space of 6 games while chasing in 2022. He's got 135 not out and 117 not out in match-winning causes against Bangladesh. But the one that stood out the most, obviously, was against India. They didn't win that game, but his 115 almost saw Zimbabwe pull off a famous chase against India. A man in great form with the bat, offers quite a bit with the ball as well. Really looking forward to see how he goes, obviously in the first stage of the group, and then potentially in the Super 12s if it comes to that as well. So those are our players to watch, one from each team in the 2022 Men's T20 World Cup. As always, like we said before, if you enjoyed the video, please like and share it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment letting us know who you're most excited to see in this year's competition. Hopefully, it's a belter.